In this presentation we are going to look at the ECDL syllabus, and in this particular presentation we're going to do an introduction to everything I have planned. So a quick introduction to spreadsheets. What we're going to do is just find out a little bit about spreadsheets before we begin and learn some important terminology. Later on what we're going to do is we will look at the objectives for the ECDL course and the overall syllabus, a breakdown of what is intended to be learnt as part of this certification exercise. So a spreadsheet is a computer program such as Microsoft Excel, OpenOffice Calc, or Google Docs spreadsheets, and they have a number of built-in functions and tools such as functions, formulas, charts, and data analysis tools that make it easier to work with large amounts of data. So the term spreadsheet is often used to describe the type of file that is generated by these programs. So if you are saving something, you would sort of say you might save it as a spreadsheet. You save a bit of save your exercise, save your data, as you would sort of say. You'd call that file a spreadsheet. So so in the sense, a spreadsheet is a file used to store various types of data. Now, the basic storage unit for a spreadsheet file is a table, and in a table, the data is arranged in rows and columns to make it easier to store, organize, analyze, and generally properly interact with the information that's available. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to bring up a spreadsheet here, and this is an example of a table here. So this is this is a table here, and what we have here is rows. So for example, we have this row here, 7 Oscar, 5, 8 and Ken, and so on. And we have columns like this column here, column A, column B, and column C. So what we were required to do, that is actually how it is. Like, we call these little individual squares, we call them cells. That's going to be an important term as we go along, cells. And each cell we can, in each cell we can store a particular piece of information. So back to the presentation here. In Excel, an individual spreadsheet file is called a workbook, and a term related to this is a worksheet, which in Excel now it refers to a single page or sheet in a workbook. By default, Excel has 3 worksheets per workbook. Now, just as a quick overall remark, actually, there are other types of spreadsheet applications available. For example, Google Docs or OpenCalc. There's quite a few of them. The main one people will be familiar with is Microsoft Excel, and because of that, most of my presentation will work in the context of Microsoft Excel, and therefore learning some of the vocabulary that is particular to Microsoft Excel, not to the same extent as the other programming languages, will be important here. So what we've previously stated that the files that are created can be called spreadsheet files, but in Excel in particular they can also be called workbooks. So what we have here is an example of a workbook. Now, as is also stated there, that we can have multiple sheets in a workbook, and if you look down here at the bottom, we have sheet 1. I'll click on this next item here, and I'll navigate onto that and click on that. And we have, this is the second sheet. There's nothing here yet, but what happens is that we can input information that complements whatever is on the first sheet into sheet 2. There's also sheet 3, and so on, and you can actually add more sheets to it very easily. Just down the bottom here you can insert worksheets and so on like that. So it's that is the idea of a workbook and worksheets, that you can have multiple pages as part of the same file. Now let's go back here. So, to put it all together, a spreadsheet program such as Excel is used to create workbook files that create one or more worksheets containing data. In Excel, a cell reference identifies the location of a cell or a group of cells in a spreadsheet. Sometimes referred to as a cell address, a cell reference consists of the column number and the row number that intersects at the cell's location. So that's actually a very interesting point. Let's go back to our table there again. So what we have here is we have up the top there, we have letters A, B, C, D, E, F, and so on. And each of these letters refer to a particular column. What I have highlighted there right now is column 3, and I'm also on row 3. So if you see just above here, this item here, this name box, this indicates the cell reference to the square I have, the cell I have activated right now. If I was just to click there to our Oscar, if you look up here, again it gives me the cell address, the cell reference, and over here it gives me the data that is saved in that particular cell. So, and we call this the cell reference, or as I said, also the cell address, and that is quite an important thing to know when we are working with spreadsheets. Now, note that when listing a cell reference, the column letter is always listed first. So you would sort of give the letter, then the number. Okay. Now you actually use the references quite a lot in formulas, functions, and charts, and so on, and quite a few commands. So it's quite important to be familiar with the cell reference. So while referencing, references also refer to individual cells such as A1, B38, and Z345. They can also refer to a group of cells or a range of cells. So for example, if I was to select a couple of items here, I would have B2 to B4 selected. Now it only gives up here, it only gives the first cell, but if I was to go over here, you can see I have selected 2 rows by 3 columns starting at C3. This is again looking at this part here. So if I was to state, for example, B6 to C6, that there, there's quite a bit more in there, but that actually gives me a range of values there. Those 2 cells there, B6 to C6. Now that semicolon operator will come in and become important later on. But just for the time being, we just need to know right now that we call that a range of cells. Now, ranges are identified by the cell references of the cells at the upper left and the lower right corners of the cells. The 2 references used for a range are separated by a colon, which tells Excel to include all of the cells between the start and end points. So for example, a range of adjacent cells would be B5 to D10. So B5 to D10, let's have a look at that. Let's go here, just down a bit, equals B5. Now you notice that B5 has been activated now to D10. So that blue square refers to the cells B5 to D10. And again, B5 here, this one here, and D10 down here, and we have B5 to D10. So it's the top left and the bottom right are the important items when we're constructing a cell range. And again, when we use the semicolon operator there to identify or to sort of state all values between the top left and bottom right. Now, let's move on from that. The next thing we are going to do, actually, we are going to start looking at the syllabus now. So that was just a sort of quick introduction to spreadsheets. A lot of the material I covered there, it's handy to know some of the terms there like cells and so on, and worksheets. Now, but as we go along in the forthcoming presentations, we'll be going over quite a lot of that again and again. So, great if you know it now, but like, don't worry if it's overwhelming yet. Now, the first part on completion of this module, so this is what we're going to do. This is actually a sort of a list of objectives that we're going to carry out for this set of presentations. So this is all the things that are relevant are included. These are all the objectives in the ECDL spreadsheet syllabus, and this is what you're going to be examined upon when you sit that exam. So on completion of the module, the candidate will be able to work with spreadsheets and save them into multiple different file formats. Choose built-in options such as the help function within the application to enhance productivity. Enter data into cells using good practice in creating lists. Select, sort and copy, move and delete data. Create mathematical and logical functions using standard spreadsheet functions. Use good practice in formula creation. Recognize error values when you're writing formulas. Edit rows and columns in a worksheet. Copy, move, delete and appropriately rename worksheets. So there we have worksheets there again. And format numbers and text content in a spreadsheet. Choose create format cell charts to communicate information meaningfully, and adjust spreadsheet page settings. And finally, check and correct spreadsheet content before finally printing spreadsheets. So that's all the goals that are the objectives that are part of this course. So what we're going to do now is we're going to have a quick look over the syllabus. So we have 7 categories here. So these are the 7 subject areas in the syllabus. What this presentation doesn't correspond to any of the sections. It's actually an introductory section. But the first section is using the application, so just working with spreadsheets, familiarizing yourself, entering data and so on. Likewise, the cells, entering data, being able to use the cells, enter data and so on. Managing worksheets, so you have been working with multiple tables and multiple files. Formulas and functions. Now this is where you really get the real benefit of working with Excel. Formulas and functions. So this is where you can use like some statistical tools, some data analysis tools to really develop, turning your data into good information, turn it into knowledge. Formatting, into improving the data's look, improving the look of the table, making it easier to read. Charts, data visualization is always very important. As the phrase goes, a picture can paint 1,000 words. And then preparing output, because you quite often you're working in teams, you're working for a company, and you want to be able to present your output to a boss. So that is the end of our introductory section to ECDL spreadsheets. And for the rest of the series, I'm going to there's 7 more videos, 7 more presentations, and each video corresponds to one of these sections here, one of these 7 sections. So that ends our presentation. Let's begin the next section.